We're very excited to take you through what is some consider to be a fairly hot topic these days, and that is data. I'll pause for effect there, but data is a very emerging area across a number of sectors in business, and transport, and particularly trains, is no different. So we're going to be focusing on real-time data and how that can enhance operations and particularly and importantly passenger experience. My name is Adam Sharp. I'm from a company called Toustone. We're a data and analytics service provider. We've been working with Metro Trains Sydney now for about 6 years, and we've built out what we consider to be one of the most sophisticated data and analytics platforms in the transport space in Australia. So looking forward to taking you through that today.
And my name's Stanford, and I work for Metro Trains Sydney, and we are the operator and maintainer of Australia's first fully automated railway. And a couple of stats about us on the screen there that you can see, but one of the stats that I'm excited about, and particularly if you saw Dan, our CEO's presentation earlier, is that over the last 5 years of operating, we have maintained an average of 98% customer satisfaction during that period, which is something that we're really proud of at MTS. But something that I'm really proud of as well is that we haven't stopped there. We've always considered how we can improve on that, and we had to sometimes reach out to friends to do it. And that's where Adam and his team have come through, and together we have achieved an Australian first in rail. But every organisation knows that having a plan and achieving that plan are two very different journeys. And rail is very familiar with that. In particular, we have an operations organisation that are dedicated to try and sort this. We invest a lot of time, we lots of people, we put money and resources together to make sure that we put the best plans forward for our customers. We then probably put just as much time, resource and energy into making sure those plans get fulfilled as best as we can on the day-to-day. But I know, in my last 17 years in rails, no matter how much money, people, and you have the best people and the best technology available to you, in our rail industry, disruptions always occur. They are a natural part of having networks of our size. If I think of just the last couple of years, I can think of the 2019-2020 bushfires. You can think of 2022, the major flooding events that also occurred here in Queensland. And more recently, on the weekend past, I think we all took a nice big breath that there was no impacts for the recent industrial actions. These are things that always occur, and unfortunately, they lead to impacted passengers' experience, which as operators is a thing we're trying to reduce. We want them to have the best experience possible. But let's remember, this is not Australian first to have disruptions. These are a global reality and something that we're always trying to face in the full industry. A few examples here of some big things like typhoons, we've got arson attacks, we've got global IT outages. All major things that impact our customers that we as operators want to try and prevent. So what if, when a disruption occurs, we can make sure that we have got the most accurate, timely and up-to-date information at the fingertips of our customers so they can make their decisions better about how they're going to do their journey. So for MTS, what was standing in our way? We had an existing system that worked well when the system worked well. We could communicate to customers that the lines were doing what they were doing, and even in minor disruptions, if we had delays or singular cancelled trains, we were able to communicate that well via the apps. However, this system used a really limited amount of real-time data, and it didn't consider the changes that we were going through as an organisation and all the extra data we were about to ingest. And what that meant was when we had some really complex disruptions, it had to make assumptions on what was going on, which a lot of the time it could get wrong. So for us, this was not giving accurate information to our customers and a big part of our problem, because this caused real confusion, real inconvenience and frustration. So we recognised we needed to get into our data and work out how to use that to its fullest. And we absolutely needed support from that, from Adam and his team at Toustone.
So how do we do that? Well, before I get into how do we do it, I need to introduce a concept by the name of SIRI. Now, it's got nothing to do with the thing on your wrist or the thing on your phone for the Apple people in the room. SIRI is actually an international standard that's come out of Europe. It's the the international standard, which is the standard interface for real-time information. Extremely dry. But what it's about is defining a common standard and a common structure for messaging for passenger and particularly public transport service provision, so that all service providers throughout a jurisdiction can communicate and update status of their services and so on in a common format such that when they are all integrated, all services can be at least interpreted and understood en masse. So how did we do this? So what we've done is, I'm showing you a fairly simplistic diagram here, which is showing you an amalgam of a series of data points or data sources that are coming together. So we're pulling live data, and when I say live, I mean to the second data feeds off the train management system and off the signalling systems to understand what the trains are doing, where they are, the speed, the location, direction of travel, and a whole host of other data points that are coming through in real time. These are individual data points streaming into the platform. We also have facilities live data as well, so the status of all the vertical transports, shutter doors, car park facilities, toilet availability, and so on, along with a whole host of other static data points. So there's a whole host of sources such as your schedules, all of the reference data associated with your network, all of the facilities reference data, and so on. So what's happening now is that's being streamed into what we call the SIRI processing engine. So what that engine does is it intercepts all of that data and builds out a whole series of messages to understand where the train is at relative to its schedule. So it snaps to a schedule to understand where it is relative to where it should be. And in the event that there's any disruptions or delays, so the delays that Stephen was just talking about, the system can automatically recalculate its position and understanding of where that train is relative to where it should be. And what it's doing then is it's transmitting, using the SIRI protocol, down to the multimodal data integration service, which is managed by Transport New South Wales, to provide real-time updates on where that service is relative to the schedule. What that then allows the downstream applications to do is that they can subscribe to that service to understand where are the trains or where are the services relative to where they should be. So that's things like Google Maps and all of the trip planner technologies and so on that are going on out there. So again, this is all in real time. And in fact, we're getting to the point now where we're able to, from time of receipt of message from the train or the signalling system, within 1 to 2 seconds, we can recalculate the position of that train relative to where it should be and recommunicate all of that updated information down to the end platforms. So that's from the perspective of customer or passenger updates. But what about operations as well? So by virtue of ingesting all of this data in real time, we're now also able to make that data available to the operators. So we've a couple of good examples here that we're showing is, and I'm hoping that's actually playing, yes it is. So what you're seeing here is in fact a screen recording of the real-time, a couple of real-time services that we provide. In the top left corner there you're seeing a train graph, and I'm sure I don't need to tell anyone in the room what a train graph is. And similarly a real-time map showing the location of the various rolling stock. So what you're seeing here is in real time, true real time, the operators are able to see in interfaces that are very familiar to them exactly how their services are performing relative to the expected schedules and service delivery obligations that they have. And when interruptions or disruptions occur, we can see immediately the impact of that. It's not the next day type view. We can see immediately in interfaces that are very familiar to them to understand those interruptions and the impacts of them. So how do they use that? Well, a classic example would be in terms of incident recovery management, for example. So where we have a primary interruption, this is the sort of thing you would typically see as a post-interruption event or post-interruption review. We can see in real time now that initial impact or that primary impact of the incident or the disruption. And we can now, the operators can now use that real-time information for then recovering to make sure that, look, yes, we acknowledge that disruptions occur, but it's how do we recover it? How do we make sure that we minimise the impact on our passengers? So that's giving them that real-time feedback as they're making decisions, making service adjustments and so on. How does that play back to them so they can keep fine-tuning all of that operational adjustments and so on. Thirdly, from an operational perspective, as Stephen briefly mentioned, as services are being disrupted and necessarily changing, the system can automatically recalculate all the various downstream messaging, which would include timetable adjustments as well. So again, the downstream applications can be absolutely updated and understood as to where we're up to.
So Adam has shown you a few ways they've been able to use our data in providing us some real solutions through. So what was the tangible impact that had for our customers? And what makes this the Australian first in rail? So with disruptions, what we're now able to do is at the time of a major disruption, we can completely rewrite our timetables and communicate those out, as Adam mentioned, within 1.5 seconds to all of our customers on their apps. So what does this look like? If we have a major flooding event that prevents our network from now running end to end, our operators do what they do best, and they manage the incident, they work out their plans, and they make their decisions. The moment they now make their decision, we have to completely rewrite the timetable to display to customers exactly what this network is now doing for them. The new times, the new places it's stopping, and stop places it's not stopping. This is being rewritten and recommunicated in 1.5 seconds and displayed on their apps for them to make decisions. So customers who are sitting on the trains and sitting at the stations can see almost immediately what impact that is now having on their journey. Whether this means they may need to change service or they need to stick it out and still just get home a little bit later. For passengers who haven't left work or home yet, they're able to journey plan and see through a detailed bit of time, in forward time, that this may still occur in the future and still be impactful. This allows them to also make those decisions on how they want to make their travel journey and whether they need to change the way they're going to get home through their third-party apps. This for us is really important as an operator to make sure that we're playing our role in the big picture of transport in New South Wales. It's our responsibility to make sure the passengers are getting the best journey possible, and if that means, because of a major disruption, it is not getting on our service, then that's great that we've been able to give that information to them. Also, Adam and the team have been able to really improve our data precision. Now, a really simple example of this is when it comes to a train leaving a station. So previously, in our other system, we had to rely on the train moving away from the station a few hundred metres before we could recognise the train had left and display to customers that this train was no longer available. It had left the platform. Now again, with that quick response and the use of data precision, the moment our doors begin to close, within 1.5 seconds, we can communicate to customers that train is gone, which is often before the doors themselves have even finished closing. This stops people from running downstairs looking for ghost trains that have clearly left the station, even though the app might say it's still available. Now, this might seem like a small bit of someone's day, and it can be impactful for people. But a really important part of this was around data trust. They need to be able to look at all the elements of how they're using their app and receiving this stuff and understand that it is accurate, timely, and beneficial. And these are one of those small areas. As an organisation, MTS would love to see operational benefits from these tools too, which we do, and Adam definitely touched on a few of those. Realistically for us, our operators focusing on the incident at hand, how to recover that, and how to make sure that that gets back to normal operations as soon as possible is our priority. So then being able to focus on this, knowing that the customer information is now fully automated the moment they make their decision, is a real benefit to us in allowing them to focus on what they're doing and gain that efficiency and benefit. We also touched on the capability of being able to rewrite our timetable nearly instantaneously, which is great during those disruption periods. We also now use that same technology for our day-to-day and forward planning of timetables, which allows us to update our customer information timetables where previously could take us 3 to 4 hours per change and major change, we can do within 15 to 16 minutes, which also allows us to respond better to our clients and other peers when we need to make late changes to timetables. Ultimately for us, having these quality people now putting their time, energy and effort into other parts of our organisation is one of the biggest benefits we can have.
So we've talked about using real-time data for updating customers or passengers in real time and also affecting operational performance and operational abilities and so on. But what other use cases are there? So now that we're ingesting all of this data into the environment, there's a huge opportunity, a whole number of different use cases that we can start to exploit. There's just a few examples here. This is by no means an exhaustive list. The first one there, as you can see here, is what we refer to as the digital twin. Now, I know that digital twin is possibly one of the most cliched, overused concepts in asset management these days, but where we like to think there is an opportunity is to take that and really augment that digital twin experience and overlay it with real-time data. So allowing you as an operator or a consumer of the information to be able to immerse yourself within the environment, particularly in relation to the assets potentially that you're looking at analysing, to understand the context in which that asset sits and the associated information with that. So imagining if you can overlay real-time information on top of that as well, it gives you a whole immersive new understanding of your performance and how your assets are performing. Incident management prediction. So clearly at the time of an incident, operators are flooded with all sorts of stresses, alarms, competing information and so on. So through the use of artificial intelligence nowadays and machine learning and so on, there are significant opportunities to understand how previously incidents have manifested and indeed how best to resolve them potentially and provide those operators with suggestions to really so-called cut through the noise and cut through the stresses, if you like, of trying to get to the point of resolution. And a third really good example is asset predictive maintenance. So again, this is not a new concept, but being able to in real time ingest that data and understand asset from a condition monitoring perspective. There are opportunities to not only in real time alert on looming conditions and issues and so on with assets, but also looking at historical maintenance records and historical performance of the asset to look at warning where there may be asset incidents about to occur, or indeed the inverse of that could be you're over-servicing the asset really when you don't need to, so you're wasting time.
So Adam and I have probably thrown a lot of information at you, and you've probably got a lot throughout your day so far, and you'll probably get a lot more. But what are our 3 take-homes for you today? So 1, disruptions are here to stay in our industry. But this innovation, and hopefully more that we can think of, are improving the information we can give to customers in light of those disruptions.
The second thing is well, we'd like to say Tombstone's real-time data is quick and accurate. So we've proven that it is possible to provide data and analytics in true real-time, in a fast presentation style and also in an accurate presentation style. And clearly, as I've mentioned, the use cases are now pretty much endless in terms of the opportunities we have with data nowadays. It is true to say that data will absolutely make a significant difference into how we manage our operations and certainly impact the customer and the passenger experience. So that's all we had to talk about today. We will take questions. I think I'm jumping the gun by inviting questions, but if anyone does, please feel free. The classic one that we often get just to sort of seed in the questions is this a greenfield site thing only, or can brownfield or existing implementations make the use of it? My response to that is if we can get access to the data, whether it's greenfield or brownfield, all data is fair game. So whatever systems are out there, we're talking to operators that are definitely brownfield or have a myriad of systems out there. So being able to get access to those, the data from those systems, integrate it, consolidate it, and then provide the analytics on top of that is entirely achievable.
Thank you so much, Adam and Stephen. Does anyone have any questions? There are microphones either side of the arena. If you can make your way there, we do have a few minutes. But while you make your way there, or have we got one coming up? Yeah, I don't. I'll ask a question to start off. Sounds like many great benefits. Are you able to outline some of the challenges you faced in rolling out this new
Well, there's many. The technology challenges, there's a lot of challenges around getting access to data. There's a huge number of challenges around even the fundamentals of things like master data. So where an asset is called something in one system, it's called something else in another system. So there's a whole piece of back work that we would need to go through to understand how all of the data points relate to each other and making sure the data is clean, available and accessible. So yes. That's a good example.
And for us, we had multiple providers and operators helping us in giving that data. So that was coming from multiple sources. So making sure that the pathways and the backbones that they were building were also resilient in that process, not just sending us data in the cheapest, quickest, easiest way, in a way that we knew could be absorbed well, could have a good future to it, and work for a long time.
Great, thank you. And we've got a question over to the right here.
Hello, my name is Ravi Ravitharan. A question about fantastic presentation, the way you have actually presented how you are using the data that you are getting to analyze. But in data collection with Metro Train Sydney, you have got lots of data on the on your rolling stock. There are a lot of information. Do you use that information to analyze when to do the maintenance of the rolling stock? When do you do the, how do you really target your maintenance practices? Do you do that, or you don't?
I'll take that one. Yeah. So we have a subcontractor who does a lot of our maintenance for us. So that is contracted out to Alstom, who is the OEM. They are already ingesting a lot of that data and doing a lot of that work. So they were who we needed to draw this data from to make sure that we could inform our customers and do that. They are absolutely doing amazing things with that data themselves in how they're maintaining the assets and doing those pieces.
Great, thank you. Any final questions? We have time for one more. No? Okay, I'll ask one final question. With cyber security, you mentioned resilience. With integrating more of this data into information available to the public, how does that introduce more cybersecurity risk, and how is that managed?
Sure. Great question, actually. So a couple of points on that. So we are very clear on air gapping control systems to analytic systems. So there is no way for our platform to reach into the train control systems. It's purely a push concept, not a pull. So touch wood, if anybody breaks into the analytics system, there's no way of breaking into the train management system itself. In terms of, there are areas such as personally identifiable information in some situations as well. So we're very strong on minimising any personally identifiable information to ensure that there's no potential around release of information that could be compromising to people. So security is an absolute critical, paramount consideration.
Fantastic. Well, please thank Adam and Stephen. Thanks for your presentation.
Thank you.